What is up, everyone? DPX here. Welcome to another video. Today, I am ranking every show I saw in 2022 from the worst to the best in a tier list. I just did this with the movies, and that video ended up being over an hour long. So let's just get right into this. It's basically just gonna work as like talk about each show, place them in a tier, then at the end of the ranking, I'll rank them all from worst to best. But yeah, let's get right into this. But before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell, leave a comment, or I will sucker punch you. First up, Andor. We're starting off strong. S tier. I was like, I don't know. Spoilers for some of the other Star Wars shows on here, like what I thought of them. Boba Fett disappointed me. Obi Wan I liked more than most people, but it could have been so much better. Andor was like the last hope, but like I think it is the best Star Wars show possibly ever. I think it's like next to Clone Wars. It's better than The Mandalorian, and we follow Cassian Andor, who's like not a character I really asked to see more of necessarily. Like he's a fine enough supporting character in Rogue One, but we find out so much more about him here, and we get to see a side of the rebellion that, you know, we don't usually see, like, because the Star Wars movies kind of paint the rebellion as like a bunch of good guys and stuff. This one, you know, you see the rebellion's kind of like, you know, it's for a good cause, but it's like they're not the best people. Like Cassian Andor is he's not that good of a person. You know, I guess he's our hero, but he does some bad things, and that's what I really like about it. Better Call Saul season 6, the series finale for Better Call Saul. I'm gonna put it in S tier. I'm not putting everything in S tier, by the way. Just so happened that the first two things on here are in S tier. I don't think it's the best season of Better Call Saul, because like the first 7 episodes are about Jimmy and Kim fucking with Howard, and then like the later end of the season's like weird. There's like a time jump, and then but the highs of this season are very high, and it actually puts a nice bow on things, you know. We get a send-off to Jimmy / Saul / Gene in a way that I didn't think would have worked. You know, the type of send-off he got, I didn't think would be a satisfying conclusion for this character, but it ended up being a satisfying conclusion to this character. It worked. It's not the best season of the show, but it made me reflect on the whole show, and I think it made the whole show better. So any season that can do that is an S tier season for me. Book of Boba Fett. I don't know, man. I'm struck between a C or a D, and I think I'm gonna give it a D, but I think it is definitely better than the 2 other shows that I have in D tier. But this one was so simple. They should have gotten this one just right off the bat, and they didn't. I don't know why they couldn't get it right. The first 4 episodes, from what I remember, were nothing. Because they were just bores. You know, they were very boring. It set up things. It told us like how Boba Fett got out of the Sarlacc pit and all that, but it was so slow. They paced it so slowly, and then Mandalorian comes back. I guess that's kind of a spoiler. I don't want to get into spoilers for all these shows, but it's out there, you know. I feel like most people know about it. Mandalorian comes back, and it all of a sudden becomes Mandalorian season 2.5, and then the finale somehow manages to be a jumbled mess. I don't understand how this has like a Marvel finale, you know what I mean? Where you don't have enough time to do all this stuff, and then the finale is rushed. This should have just been a show about Boba Fett, and it wasn't. 2 episodes, Boba Fett does not appear at all in one of them, and in another one, he appears for 2 seconds and doesn't say a goddamn word. In his own show. Mando hijacked Boba Fett's show and made it better. D tier, it's not the worst thing, you know. It should have been so much better. But I really do think D tier, just because of how much of a disappointment it was. Chucky season 2. C. Look, I loved the first season of Chucky. It definitely wasn't the best thing in the world, but for what it was, I really enjoyed it. This season of Chucky took things to the extreme. There's a lot of division between with the fan base of Chucky about what was it? Cult of Chucky, I believe, where it gets all crazy and just goofy and it's not taking itself seriously. And basically this entire season feels like that. I feel like it's different. You can do that with movies. You can have one movie be very dark and serious and have the next movie be kind of like, you know, carefree. The problem here is that it's one season of a show with one tone, and then the next season with a completely different tone. And I don't think you can, because it's still the same show. The other thing is there's some writing issues and like storytelling issues. There are characters that get, you know, there's a big plot twist. Whoa, this character's been behind everything the whole time, and then they die immediately. So what was the point? Or there'll be a big reveal, a huge return happened at some point, and then goodbye. And then the finale, like the finale of this season was not the right finale. You know what I mean? I feel like the show thinks it's so clever and so good with its twists, but it had a twist at the end. It had a twist in the finale of this season that was not built up to at all for this entire season. So, yeah, it was a disappointment. I don't know. The first season of Chucky made me very excited for the second season of Chucky. This season of Chucky, though, I don't know, man. I think if it hasn't been greenlit for a third season, but if it does get greenlit, I'll definitely watch it. But it's like, I don't know if I am as excited for it as I was for this one. So yeah, it's not the worst thing. It's not a D tier, but man, was that... Oh, man, is it frustrating. Cobra Kai Season 5. S tier. Now, that's more of a biased one, you know. Because personally, it might be more in line with A tier. Considering it, I don't think it's the strongest season of Cobra Kai. I think Season 1 and 2... Or no, Season 1 and 4 are both... They're definitely more focused, and there aren't as many questionable things happening. You know, this season focuses a lot on the adults, which means a good portion of the characters are not, are kind of pushed to the sidelines. The Miguel storyline in Mexico is shockingly short, and there are characters that are, like, they make decisions where it's like, okay, you shouldn't be that dumb, you know what I mean? And there are times where characters should be fucking arrested, but that's every season of Cobra Kai. But I cannot get enough of this show. Every time they make a new season, they always hit it out of the park for me. I didn't give this a perfect score. Everything else in S tier I gave a 10 out of 10. I didn't give Cobra Kai Season 5 a 10 out of 10, because I wanted to, but I gotta look at it objectively, and it's definitely not a 10 out of 10. But Terry Silver, who's just this big threat, you know, he's definitely a menace. I think he might be one of my favorite villains in television, and I think he's one of my favorite villains, just period, you know what I mean? Maybe actually top 10. Not to mention Chosen. Chosen's a lot of fun, sort of like a comic relief, and that's with Johnny there, and Johnny's usually kind of comic relief. And the little thing they gave Johnny here as well I was not expecting that in a million years. And that finale, I think the finale made it all worth it, to be honest. If you guys have not watched Cobra Kai, you got to. Even if you haven't watched the original Karate Kid movies, what do? You have to watch this show. It's so good. The Cuphead show, I'm gonna put that in A tier, because it's a nice little show. It's not like a serialized show. By the way, there are multiple seasons of Cuphead. 3 of them. The first 3 seasons came out in 2022. But they all kind of blend together because they're not serialized, and they all came out pretty soon after each other. It's almost like SpongeBob. Like, I feel like Cuphead and Mugman kind of remind me a bit of SpongeBob, and there'll be an episode where they want to go on a cruise and get ice cream, or another episode when they're at a carnival, you know, or another episode where they meet Miss Chouse and they get to fuck around and steal shit. You know, it's a lot of fun. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but it's a fun time. Halo. We go from one video game adaptation to another. Halo is a D tier, and it's my least favorite show of 2022. What can I say about Halo that hasn't already been said? It's not a Halo show. The character in the show might be called Master Chief, but this isn't Master Chief. We see him without the helmet way more than we do with the helmet. So, it's more John to us, you know what I mean? And it focuses a lot on characters who, like, just don't care about. Like, I don't care about Quan. Like, I barely cared about her when her story was with Master Chief. Then she went away from Master Chief. I really just don't care about her. And, yeah, don't get me started on what they did with Master Chief. They have him reveal his face and show his face for most of this season. Then they they reveal us his ass. Then they make him fuck a Covenant spy, you know? I don't think you need to make it one-to-one, you know? Because maybe there's some aspects that work in the game that wouldn't really work in the show. So make it your own sort of take on Halo. But make it a Halo show. You know, if you're not gonna play the game, at least like get familiar with the franchise, with the games, you know, with the story. You know, get to know characters like Master Chief, because the showrunners and the writers clearly did not, and it got greenlit for a season 2, and it's gonna have a new showrunner, so hopefully it'll be better. But it's just like, I feel like Halo works as a show, you know. I Am Groot. I'm gonna give that a B tier because it's a perfectly fine. It's really good, I'd say, actually. It's a perfectly fine series of shorts. It's really weird on Disney Plus. You know how like whenever any show releases on Disney Plus, you click on the show, and then there's a bunch of, you get all the episodes lined up. All the episodes are released separately on Disney Plus, which is very weird to me. But they're nice little animated shorts. Each of them are like 5 minutes long, but that's counting credits, so really like 3 minutes long. And yeah, you get Groot just being Groot, being baby Groot. It's fine. I love Groot, so this is nice. I love you, you hate me. It's this 2-part Barney docu-series. It's just 2 episodes. Should this even be on the list? Because it's not much of a show, but I'm gonna give it a B, because I think it's a very interesting watch. It's basically about the character of Barney and like the show, and kind of like the hate it got, you know? Like, we see a whole bunch of stuff online about, let's hate on Peppa Pig. Peppa Pig's kind of got that sort of like meme status, you know? But like, Barney was like to the extreme, and I really know just how far it went, and like just how offended the people behind Barney were, you know? It got to the point where like a mascot, like a baseball mascot, was like beating up a Barney mascot at a baseball game, you know, and like the creators behind Barney sued, and I think it's a very interesting story. Not a whole lot to it. Not a whole lot I want to say about it, really. But I think it's very interesting. Lord of the Rings of Power. This fucking show should have been here. But it's here. It's a C tier. I don't know how you fuck this up. You have, I could be wrong here, but I believe Rings of Power is the most expensive, like the biggest budget a show has ever gotten, you know? And for positives, I will say, when watching it, you see the budget, you know? I mean that in a good way, because when you watch it, it looks like a movie, and not just any movie, a big budget blockbuster. Like, it looks like a show that should be seen on the big screen, and the first 2 episodes, I think, premiered on the big screen, which I think is pretty cool. But the pacing's my biggest issue with this show. It's not the characters, which the characters do have issues, but my biggest issue with this show is the pacing. The first 4 3/4 episodes are very slow. I can't even tell you what happened in them. And then towards the end of the 5th episode is when it was like, okay, alright, this is starting to get interesting. And then the 6th episode is where, like, 6th episode, if every episode was like the 6th episode, you would have, like, an S-tier show. It kind of peaked at the 6th episode. I do think 7 and 8 were definitely better than the first 5, but it's just, and the characters too, like Galadriel is, I don't think she's the worst. I don't hate her as much as most people do, but she is very combative, and her motives aren't, like, they make clear what her goals are, but like they don't really tell us like much about her, really. The stuff with Elrond and Durin I thought were really cool, but we don't know why they haven't seen each other in a while. And most of the other characters, I don't even fucking remember their names. This is a show that, it should have been so good. It really should have been, but it's not. And instead, House of the Dragon whooped its ass, which is not... House of the Dragon's not on here because I haven't watched Game of Thrones yet. And I've yet to watch that show too. It is on the list though. I'm not watching. It's not like I'm watching Rings of Power instead of House of Dragon. All right. Moon Knight. I'm gonna have to also put that in C. Again, C I notice is a lot of disappointing shows. You know, shows that I don't really, because I don't want to call any of these bad. D I want to call them bad, but except Boba Fett is like bad, but with some really good moments that almost make it not bad. But Moon Knight is definitely not a bad show, but it is so disappointing, it honestly sours me on the whole show. For one, I think Oscar Isaac as Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, Moon Knight, really good. I don't think he got nominated for an Emmy, but I think he should have. Same with Ethan Hawke as, what was his name, Marrow? Like, he was very good in this show. And I did really like the intrigue, you know. It was a slow burn, and when it finally burned, it burned good. There's a weird way of saying that, but it was a slow burn. The intrigue was really good, and I thought it turned out great until the finale. And there's some issues going in, you know, but the finale, I know it's just one episode, and I did just say the rest of the episodes were pretty good. But the finale really made me... This was the first time I started to really, it started to really bother me. That all these MCU shows... It's when I started to realize that these MCU shows have the same problem. 6 episodes is not enough. It's not enough to have... to do this much. The finale of the show, the finale of Moon Knight, should have been 2 different episodes, but not only was it 1 episode, it was the shortest episode. It's a disappointing show. It should have been so good. This Marvel, I didn't have too high expectations for. I want to give it a B. A lot of people didn't like this show. I like it more than most people because the first 3 episodes, I think, where it was just following Kamala Khan in her high school life, I just thought it was very fun. It was very interesting just to see that and seeing her family and her friends. You know, it was a unique perspective. We kind of got that perspective in Spider-Man: Homecoming, but in Miss Marvel, it was very artistic as well. I guess that's the word. There'll be times where she's texting someone, but then the text bubble will show up as chalk on the street. I thought that was really cool. And there are a bunch of just cute little moments with her and her family and her friends. You know, I enjoyed it. This 4th episode was starting to lose me a little bit as we kind of got away from that, but it was still good, you know. And episode 5 took a huge detour. You know what I mean? Episode 5 it kind of did this story, and it was kind of like a real story that actually happened. But putting a Marvel spin on it, which I thought was interesting. But why is that here? This has nothing to do with anything else. We just what? Why? Then the finale, which I thought for the most part stuck the landing, but the finale was a jumble mess. I do think it did kind of wrap up things pretty well, but a little rushed. My biggest issue here, though, is that you have not only 2 villains, 2 villain groups. You have the Clandestines and the Department of Damage Control. They set up the Department of Damage Control, and they set up that they are after Kamala Khan. And then we cut away from them, and we go to the Clandestines. We do an entire story about the Clandestines, and once that's done, we get back to the Department of Damage Control. It's make up your mind. I did like it more than most people. It feels different, you know. Iman Vellani, I think her name is, as Ms. Marvel, as Kamala Khan, has this infectious charm. You know, it makes her very fun to watch. But it was good. It's definitely one of the better MCU shows, I feel. But it has the issues that all the other MCU shows have. Obi-Wan. I'm gonna put that right next to Miss Marvel. Now, I liked Obi-Wan more than most people. I would assume people would put Obi-Wan down here. But, I did like it more than most people, but I really, really wanted it. I think this or Cobra Kai might have been my most anticipated show of 2022. I wanted it to go here. I was so excited for this, and the first 3 episodes were so good. Doing the PTSD, Obi Wan Kenobi, perfect. That was done perfectly. I would not have done it better. And Leia, the way they incorporated Leia into this, you know, yeah, they knew I guess now it's established that they knew each other in A New Hope. That's more of a problem with this show existing. But it was fun. I really liked the dynamic between the two. My problem here is once we got into episode 4, it felt like a filler episode in this show that had 6 episodes. And then episode 5, which was a step up and had some cool moments, like the scene between Vader and Reva. That was awesome, but it didn't, I don't know. And episode 6, I think, kind of ended the show very well. But this should have been a movie. I'm not the first person to say that, but it should have been a movie. I think if this was a movie and it was on my movie ranking, it would have been on the movie ranking if it was a movie, obviously. I would have been at least an A tier, because what you have is good. You have a good story, and yeah, you know, you get some retcons and stuff. That's sort of, you know, this was the last time I feel like, for now, they Star Wars did shit for nostalgia and only nostalgia. I really enjoyed Obi-Wan. I enjoyed it more than most people. Maybe it was the first 3 episodes, you know, and that really made me be like, okay, I don't care what they do in this, what else they do in this show. That was awesome, you know. That was very well done, but it really should have been so much better. Peacemaker, S tier. I did not expect this at all. I did not expect to love Peacemaker this much. You know, you take a character from the Suicide Squad, and you hate Peacemaker for what he did in that movie. And you make an entire show about him, and then you end up loving him for the reason you hated him. It's like, what? James Gunn, only James Gunn. And only James Gunn would make a fun, exciting ensemble cast. You know, Economos, Hardcore, Vigilante, Abadayo, like, they're all so much fun. And they each get, like, somewhat of an arc, you know? And it's a lot of fun. John Cena as Peacemaker, I think this is John Cena's best role. Some of the jokes I feel like do go on a little too long. I feel like they get somewhat of a pass because they're all funny. There's also this one moment that's supposed to be a very emotional moment, I feel. But you have characters cracking jokes, and I feel like that was a little. You get the humor right a lot. I feel like this one, not really. But I think it's a fantastic show. I've heard people say this is the best DC show ever. I don't know if I can quite agree with that, because there's still Doom Patrol, there's still the Batman animated series and the Justice League animated series, but this is up there. This is top 5 for sure. It might be better than some of the ones I just said. It's amazing. Rick and Morty Season 6, I'm going to put that in B tier, because, I don't know, Season 1 of Rick and Morty and Season 2 of Rick and Morty are, like, some of the best television I've ever seen. Season 3 starts very good, and then Pickle Rick happened, and then it kind of, I really hope Rick and Morty doesn't continue to dip, because it is starting to dip a little bit, which is, I feel like that's gonna happen, you know, because maybe the show peaked a little too early, because I'm telling you, the first 2 seasons are mwah. But this season I feel like was good. It was pretty solid, but I don't know, man. Each episode is unique, of course, and I feel like they're all a lot of them have some interesting ideas. I started to really notice this, especially with Ellis Mark's video, that there's a lot of incest jokes on Rick and Morty, and I really started to notice that. You know, there are 2 whole episodes that are basically like incest the episodes, and it's not funny. I don't think that's funny, and it does get a little too meta. You know what I mean? I think this season of Rick and Morty was definitely better than the last season, and I think maybe even the season before that. But Rick and Morty is falling off a little bit, and I wanted to regain its. I wanted to come back. I'm not so sure how it'll do with the Justin Roiland. I think it's a decent season of a show that I hope doesn't go the way of The Simpsons or Family Guy. She-Hulk, I'm gonna put that in the middle of D tier. Look, I don't hate women, okay? There was a lot of hate for She-Hulk immediately because woman, okay? I was actually pretty excited for this. I thought it seemed different. It felt more like a show. This was the first MCU show in a while where I watched it. I'm kind of like, okay, this, like, because most of the shows, I watched them and it's like, this could have been a movie. She-Hulk was the first time where I watched it and I'm like, I think this works as a show. The problem is, it stayed on that one, like, it didn't go anywhere. Which obviously, if it's not serialized, doesn't need to go anywhere. But there are episodes where it's like She-Hulk, Jen goes to a wedding. The episode, or Jen goes to therapy. The episode, or Jen goes speed dating. The episode. That's it. And it stopped being funny for a little bit, and then the finale happened. The Daredevil episode, I thought, was, without question, the best episode of the show. But then the finale happened. And, like, she's saying that, like, none of the plot lines make sense. This is a lazy ending. The villain sucks. And I'm inclined to agree if you're gonna say that your own shows. The problem is they had this plot line, this mystery going on, and by the end of the season, they kind of just, the show basically tells you, nah, we don't care about that. Who cares? So it was a waste of time. That whole plot line was a waste of time. It's just, I don't know, like, I think the main actress for Jen is a lot of fun, and the Daredevil episode was really good, but I think this is a big miss from the MCU. Tales of the Jedi, A tier. This is, I wasn't expecting much from this. It's a series of short stories, I guess. You know, we get to see, and it's, you know, formatted a little weirdly, I guess you can say. The first episode is about Ahsoka as a baby. Then the next 3 episodes are about Count Dooku and how he goes to the dark side. The next 2 episodes are about Ahsoka after Order 66. And the Count Dooku stuff I thought was very fascinating. You see such an interesting and, like, honestly, like, you can kind of understand him why he would go to the dark side. And the way they tie that into the movies, I thought really made a lot of sense. It was really, I thought it was really good, really cool. And yeah, this was, I think the Star Wars animation, the animated Star Wars shows, I mean, the Bad Batch is a little hit or miss, but, you know, the Clone Wars, Rebels, and now this, I think they're all really good, I think. Tekken Bloodline. I'm gonna give this a B tier. This was actually a very solid show. I feel like it could have been more than 6 episodes. It's almost like a Marvel show there. But no, it shares the issues as the Marvel shows. It shares the same issues as the Marvel shows by being 6 episodes long. But the 6 episodes don't fuck it over like how the Marvel shows do, if you know what I mean. Because this doesn't really feel rushed necessarily. There are just certain things. There's certain things that happen way quicker because, I don't know, there are a lot of fights that happen, but I would have liked to see more of the fights. Like, the fights happen for longer, but they weren't, because I guess they just wanted to have the show 6 episodes long. And there's an entire episode about Jin training, and it happens throughout the course of like, what, 4 years? And I feel like it's just weird to see he starts the episode one age, and then at the end of the episode he's 4 years older. But I think it's a very solid show. I would like to see a season 2, and if they do, I would like to see them, because there are certainly things they can do if you know about Tekken in a season 2. I would like to see them do a little more than 6 episodes, or maybe make the episodes longer, because I think you got something really good here. Last but not least, WWE Evil. It's a documentary series about the heels of WWE, you know, the bad guys. And it's interesting. You kind of get to know what goes on behind the writing and how, kind of like how they became the way they are, you know, but it's kind of like in kayfabe almost. I don't know, it's a little weird because it's not like any new information. It's just talking about this wrestler became a heel. You know, we wrote him to be a heel, and he's a heel, or she's a heel, and this is the type of crowd reaction they got. And one of the episodes is about how Roman Reigns, how he had to leave for leukemia once, then he came back, and apparently, like, the episode says he got booed when he came back. That did not happen. That did not happen. I remember watching. That did not happen. It's a very solid show. I think it's a decent watch, but it's not a very, like, what's the word? I didn't learn anything watching it. But yeah, so that's my ranking of all the shows I watched in 2022. And I'm going to order them and give you my ranking from the worst to the best. So my ranking of all the shows I saw in 2022, ranked from the worst to the best: Halo, She-Hulk, Book of Boba Fett, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Chucky Season 2, Moon Knight, I Love You, You Hate Me, I Am Groot, WWE Evil, Tekken Bloodline, Rick and Morty Season 6, Obi Wan Kenobi, Ms. Marvel, The Cuphead Show, Tales of the Jedi, Cobra Kai Season 5, Peacemaker, Better Call Saul Season 6, and Andor. So that was my ranking of all the shows I saw in 2022. You might notice that in the middle there's a lot of shows there, more than any other tier. So that might imply that 2022 was a mid-year for shows. That's not true. There's a lot of really good shows I did not watch. Like I said, House of Dragon I didn't watch. I still need to watch The Boys. I still need to watch Stranger Things. There's all the Yellowstone stuff that came out. A lot of really good shows that came out in 2022, and in 2023 it's looking really good for television as well. So yeah, what do you guys think? What were some of your favorite shows? What would you move? Do you think maybe Moon Knight is better? Because Moon Knight is more of a mixed show. You know, I still see it's divisive. So would you move that higher? Would you maybe lower Cobra Kai? You know, do you think I overscored Obi-Wan? You know, let me know down below. Anyways, be sure to comment, subscribe, or I will sucker punch you. Bye!